他如果做不到，那要拿什么说爱你？够爱你
，baby， 你看好看吗？
就会主动防御 HPV， 因为统计显示，每2对情侣夫妻就有1对可能感染。拿得出手的人才是真正爱你的人。男女1+1，主动防御 HPV。
Well, I am happy to report that my coffee is actually still unspilled today. I'm Joe, and it is a fantastic morning.
I give it 10 minutes tops. But hey, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to all our Sip&Talkers out there, whatever time zone you're in. Welcome back to Sip&Talk. I'm Sunny.
Seriously, though, the cup is firmly planted on the coaster right now. I'm not taking any chances today.
We will see about that.
Right.
But listen, we need to jump right in because I have to tell you, Chinese social media is it's completely exploding right now.
Oh, wait, really? What happened this time? Did someone cross another glass heart red line?
Oh, majorly. The fiercely nationalistic internet circles, the little pinks, they are absolutely raging at Taiwan's Kuomintang party, the KMT.
Okay, the KMT. But they're constantly labeled as, the most pro-China party in Taiwan. What could they possibly be mad about?
Right. It sounds totally backwards, but it all comes down to a really wild contradiction that just happened. So, a little while ago, a severe earthquake hit Kumamoto, Japan, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
Well, the KMT didn't hesitate for a single second. The party leadership immediately opened their wallets and donated 1 million new Taiwan dollars to the Japanese relief effort.
Okay, big check, lots of cameras, the whole 9 yards.
Exactly. But then, fast forward to the recent devastating floods that swept through mainland China, the KMT's response to that, a press release.
Wait, just a press release?
Just a piece of paper. They issued a statement expressing their, quote, condolences and care. 0 cash. Not a single dime changed hands.
Oh, wow. You can see why the little pinks are losing their minds. I mean, they're probably feeling like they got totally played.
Oh, they feel incredibly emotionally used. They're pointing fingers and shouting, you call yourselves the Chinese Nationalist Party, but you betrayed us.
They're probably thinking, you talk about how blood is thicker than water, but when Japan has an earthquake, you hand over hard cash. And when we drown in floods, you give us, empty air?
Precisely. And it's such a thick irony, because here you have a party whose entire historical brand leans on cross-strait ties, but when it comes to actually opening up the wallet in a crisis, they are incredibly cold and calculated.
Which is fascinating from a behavioral standpoint. Being pro-China in words, but completely honest in the wallet. But before we get into the weeds here, we should probably drop a quick disclaimer for everyone listening.
Oh, absolutely. Let's pull out the get out of jail free card right now.
Yeah.
Just to be totally clear, we are not defending the KMT on Sip&Talk today.
Right. We aren't trying to wash anyone's image, and we are definitively not taking sides in cross-strait politics. We're looking at this purely through the objective lens of political survival logic.
Exactly. So grab your coffee or your wine, whatever you're drinking, and let's unpack this strange phenomenon. Joe, you got to help us figure out how the KMT is doing this math.
Well, to really grasp the mechanics here, you have to look past the surface-level internet drama. Because the KMT isn't just forgetting to write a check, This is highly orchestrated risk management.
Risk management. Because sending money is actually dangerous for them.
Yeah, exactly. You have to look at how much the landscape has shifted. Let's rewind the clock to 2008. When the massive Wenchuan earthquake hit China, Taiwan, and the government, private corporations, everyday citizens, they donated over 7 billion NTD.
7 billion. That is a staggering amount of money.
It was. The atmosphere back then was entirely different. It was all about building this cycle of goodwill. But today, the environment has completely inverted. Giving money to China is basically politically toxic in Taiwan right now.
Which is wild to think about.
Yeah.
But it makes sense when you look at the 3 core reasons driving this. First of all, you have the domestic vote.
Right, the all-important swing voters.
Exactly. In Taiwan's current climate, donating to Japan is a safe, guaranteed win with those swing voters. But donating to China, if a political party does that, their opponents instantly accuse them of funding the very missiles that are aimed right back at Taiwan.
And that is a brutally effective campaign ad to fight against. No politician wants to be caught on the wrong side of that narrative.
No, not at all. But the second reason isn't even about Taiwan, is it? It actually comes from Beijing.
Yeah, it's about Beijing's pride. Under their current great power narrative, Beijing really does not actively encourage outside political donations for disaster relief anymore.
Oh, because they want to look totally self-sufficient.
Exactly. They want the world to see that they can handle their own domestic crises without any handouts. In fact, during a lot of these recent floods, official channels weren't even accepting direct transfers from overseas political parties.
That is a really fascinating layer to this, which leads right into the third reason, which is this really specific division of labor the KMT is using.
The old double game.
Yeah. They use their words like those press releases and condolences to keep their political communication channels open with Beijing. But they use their actual wallet to satisfy the mainstream Taiwanese voters.
It's literal risk management. You send thoughts and prayers across the strait, and you send actual hard cash to Tokyo.
You can completely understand why Chinese netizens are furious. I mean, they are literally calling the KMT the Japanese Nationalist Party now.
I saw that. But, Sunny, let me ask you a follow-up here, because the behavioral science gets really interesting. Is this refusal to donate only about Taiwan's domestic politics?
What do you mean?
Like, is it just about dodging that funding missiles label, or is there a practical operational reason they won't send the money to Beijing?
Oh, there is a massive operational reason, and it comes down to a complete, absolute collapse of trust. The concept here is institutional distrust.
Okay, lay it on me.
Here's the real kicker. It's not just Taiwanese politicians who refuse to donate. Even Chinese citizens themselves have largely stopped donating to their own official state charities, like the Chinese Red Cross.
Wait, seriously, the domestic population has just stopped giving?
Yes, the historical baggage is wild. If you want to understand why, you have to look at the infamous Guo Meimei scandal.
Oh, man. The Guo Meimei scandal. I know that name sends shivers down the spine of public relations officials literally everywhere.
It was a nuclear PR disaster. Picture this, it's 2011, right? This young woman named Guo Meimei, whose social media profile claims she is a commercial general manager tied to the Chinese Red Cross, starts aggressively flaunting her lifestyle online.
And when you say flaunting, we're not talking about a nice vacation.
No, we are talking multiple luxury sports cars, Maseratis, closets just overflowing with Hermes bags, massive mansions.
Oh, wow.
And the general public, who had been donating their hard-earned money to earthquake victims, looks at this and collectively says, wait a minute. I gave you a portion of my salary to buy tents for orphans, and this official is driving a Maserati.
Now, I know the Red Cross eventually came out and vehemently denied she actually worked for them, but, I mean, it didn't even matter, did it?
Not at all. The brand damage was instantaneous and totally irreversible. The trust just evaporated overnight. And unfortunately, that skepticism has only been validated by documented cases over the years of local governments skimming disaster relief funds.
Right, where instead of the money going to the victims, it gets rerouted to build, like, luxury government office buildings or to buy fleets of high-end official cars.
Exactly. And this just flared up again recently. During the severe floods in Hebei and Beijing, netizens started doing their own audits of the public records.
Internet sleuths to the rescue.
Always. And they noticed that official charities were spending astronomical amounts of money on, quote, event catering and luxury hotels, rather than on actual boots-on-the-ground relief like rescue boats.
It's an accounting nightmare. I love using this analogy because it makes it so clear donating to Japan is basically like tracking a FedEx package.
Yes, perfect analogy.
You know, you have the app open, you'd see it leave the facility, you see it arrive at the Japanese Red Cross, and you get a delivery confirmation with a photo of the box on the porch.
You know exactly where your goodwill went.
But donating to China's official channels right now, it's like throwing a bag of cash into a black hole and just crossing your fingers that it doesn't end up buying a local official a brand new Mercedes.
When you look at it through that lens, the KMT's hesitation isn't just political. It's highly rational fiduciary responsibility.
It totally is.
But Joe, I have to push back aggressively here, because if we follow that logic, we run headfirst into a massive contradiction.
Okay, bring it on. What's the contradiction?
If the KMT is so terrified of mainstream voters and so deeply worried about the optics of sending money to a black hole that they won't even write a check to China, why are they currently sitting in the Taiwanese legislature pushing highly unpopular, seemingly pro-China policies?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right. It feels like they're carefully avoiding stepping on a crack on the sidewalk and then turning around and swan diving into a volcano.
It's the paradox of their entire platform. And it makes absolutely no sense until you apply what political scientists call the two markets theory.
Okay, the two markets theory. Break that down for us.
Think of it this way. Imagine you're running a vegan restaurant, right? But you are trying to quietly run a secret steakhouse out of the back door at the exact same time.
Okay, that sounds like a terrible business plan, but keep going.
It is terrible. But the KMT is terrified that if the mainstream swing voters, the vegans, smell the steak, they will leave the restaurant forever. These swing voters want strong defense. They're highly suspicious of Beijing.
Right, they demand security.
Exactly. But if the KMT stops grilling the steak entirely, their original investors, the Deep Blue base, will pull all their funding and support. This Deep Blue base wants closer cross-strait ties, they want political dialogue, and frankly, they vehemently oppose our U.S. arms sales to Taiwan.
And that is where things get really messy for us, because when we look at our defense budget and our policies here in Washington, watching our defense packages get tangled up over there is, well, it's just super frustrating.
From our perspective, we authorize these arms sales to help our Democratic partners, and then the KMT just blocks or freezes the budget in the legislature.
And they always claim it's all about, like, stopping corruption or government waste, right?
That's the public relations line. They say, oh, we're just watching the taxpayers' wallets. But their opponents argue they're intentionally weakening the island's defenses to appease Beijing.
But really, it's tied right back to that steakhouse analogy. To justify their existence, they have to prove the ruling party's defense strategy is flawed.
Yes, and more critically, it's about how their Deep Blue base views our weapons. That base often views our U.S. arms sales not as protection, but as a provocation.
Right. They believe that buying our weapons turns Taiwan into a proxy pawn, like a porcupine that is just going to get destroyed in a war between Washington and Beijing.
Exactly. The Deep Blue base believes dialogue is the only true defense. So if the KMT just rubber stamps every defense budget and enthusiastically buys our weapons, their base looks at them and says, why do we even need you?
You're just a knockoff version of the ruling party.
Right. They have to fight our defense packages just to prove to their core market that they are still in the room.
Which brings us to another massive legislative flashpoint right now, the Chinese spouse citizenship issue. The KMT is currently pushing a bill to shorten the naturalization time for spouses from mainland China, dropping it from 6 years down to 4 years.
And their public argument for this is entirely framed around human rights.
Right.
Saying these spouses should be treated just like any other immigrant.
Yes, but that framing hides the actual mechanism at play. There is a huge catch here. Currently, foreign nationals fall under standard immigration laws. But spouses from mainland China are governed under a completely different framework called the Cross-Strait Relations Act.
Oh, I see. Which exists specifically because, legally, they are not classified as foreigners.
Exactly. If the KMT doesn't fight tooth and nail for these specific rights under this specific act, there is a huge risk that eventually Chinese spouses simply get lumped in with standard foreign nationals.
And if that legal precedent is set, the KMT loses their core ideological stance.
Exactly. The whole idea that the two sides of the strait have a special non-foreign relationship. They aren't just fighting for 2 years on a timeline. They are fighting to keep a legal technicality alive that sustains their entire political narrative.
It's a proxy war over the very definition of what Taiwan is. And, since we just brought up Washington and our defense sales, it really makes you wonder how the international community is viewing this bizarre balancing act.
Oh, we are definitely watching this closely. If you dig into the latest assessments coming out of major think tanks, places like the Global Taiwan Institute, the Brookings Institution, the Asia Society, they are all zeroing in on this exact phenomenon.
And what's the consensus? How are they grading this KMT strategy?
Well, they are pointing out the severe geopolitical risk of what they call double-track balancing. Let's look at the timeline here, because it is honestly giving international observers whiplash.
Whiplash is right.
The think tanks highlight the actions of KMT leadership, specifically figures like Cheng Li-wen. Take April, for example. In April, KMT leadership visits China. They sit down with Xi Jinping, and during this trip, they lean heavily into shared historical grievances.
Right. They publicly blamed Japanese imperialism, specifically that era from 1895 to 1945, for dividing the Taiwan Strait in the first place.
Okay, so in April, the message to Beijing is Japan is the historical villain, and we are families separated by their actions.
Precisely. Now, fast forward to July, just a few months later. They invite the press, they get the cameras rolling, and they highly publicize handing that 1 million NTD check to the Japan-Taiwan Exchange Association for earthquake relief.
That is just incredible. And that right there is the fatal flaw in this double-track balancing that the think tanks are warning about. It is the most catastrophic mixed signaling you could possibly design.
It really is.
I mean, they are trying to look Beijing in the eye and say, we share a destiny, while simultaneously turning to Washington and Tokyo and saying, don't worry, we are your crucial democratic partners.
They're trying to be all things to all people. But what is the actual result on the ground?
The result is a credibility deficit on all fronts. Beijing looks at the KMT happily handing relief checks to Japan and thinks they are unreliable traders. We here in Washington look at the KMT blocking our defense packages and shaking hands in Beijing, and we fundamentally doubt their sincerity as a security partner in the Indo-Pacific.
And Taiwanese voters, they're just completely confused. You cannot be two entirely different political entities depending on what month it is.
It is exhausting just tracking the narrative. So, Joe, why do they force themselves into this corner? Why does the KMT subject itself to these agonizing mental gymnastics?
Well, if you trace the root of the problem all the way down, beneath the defense budgets, beneath the disaster relief, it all comes back to one core thing: their identity.
The Republic of China title.
Yes, they are fiercely clinging to the Republic of China title, the ROC. And the structural problems of the ROC identity in the modern era are just immense. We see this all the time in international relations.
We really do. Critics have pointed out for years that clinging to this title severely limits their international space. I mean, the diplomatic reality is brutal. There are only about a dozen official allies left in the world that formally recognize the Republic of China.
And it creates massive global confusion. Think about our daily lives here in the U.S. In international media, in global business, in casual conversation, we all just say, Taiwan.
That's the pragmatic reality.
Exactly. The name Republic of China deeply confuses foreigners who just think, wait, are you the PRC? Are you mainland China?
It's an absolute branding nightmare on the global stage. But more dangerously, it gives Beijing legal ammunition.
Oh, for sure. Because as long as the Constitution says Republic of China and technically still contains territorial claims over the mainland, Beijing can point to it and say to the international community, look, even their own foundational laws admit they are part of a singular China.
It is a massive legal loophole that Beijing just drives a truck through.
And the reality of international pragmatism has already moved on. Look at how the world handles it. When you watch the Olympics, they don't march under the ROC flag. They compete as Chinese Taipei.
Right, or look at the WTO. In the World Trade Organization, they aren't the Republic of China. They're officially registered as a specific customs territory.
The entire world has found diplomatic workarounds because the official name is just too radioactive to touch.
Now, to be completely fair and objective here, the Blue Camp has a very serious counter-argument to this.
Let's hear it.
They argue that abruptly changing the name from Republic of China to Taiwan isn't just a simple rebranding exercise. It risks immediate catastrophic war with Beijing.
Right, because of China's anti-secession law.
Exactly, which practically guarantees military action if the name is formally changed. Furthermore, they argue that the ROC framework provides necessary historical continuity. It's the foundation of their current laws, their property rights, their entire civic structure. You can't just hit delete on your constitution without massive shockwaves.
And that is the ultimate tightrope. You have a party trapped between the geopolitical reality of Beijing's red lines, the demands of their historical base, and the pragmatic desires of modern voters.
That's a tough spot to be in.
It is. And it leads me to a final thought, something I really want you, our listener, to chew on after this episode of Sip and Talk.
Go for it.
We've seen today how the reality of international politics and intense domestic pressure forces even the most culturally pro-China party to choose pragmatic optics over their historical identity.
Right. They won't even send disaster relief money to China because the political cost at home is simply too high.
Exactly. So if the pressure is that immense over the simple charity donation, how long can the broader Republic of China framework survive before the weight of its own internal contradictions collapses it entirely?
Man, that is the question of the decade. The contradictions are becoming impossible to ignore, and the balancing act is rapidly running out of track.
It is definitely a space we will be watching very closely. And on that heavy, highly complex note, let's bring it back to a warm wrap-up for the day.
Absolutely. And just a quick reminder regarding some of the figures, the relief funds, and the donations we discussed today. If any of that sounded financial, please remember we are not investment experts.
Not at all. We are just a couple of geeks analyzing political survival and human behavior.
And as always, we want to reiterate our core ethos here. We are not criticizing or discriminating against any country, any political group, or any people. Our goal today was simply to provide an objective analysis of the facts and to encourage independent, critical thinking.
That's exactly right. If you enjoyed this conversation, please make sure to subscribe to the Sip and Talk podcast so you never miss an episode.
And before we go, we have to give a massive shout out to our good friend Mickey. He has been putting out some absolutely incredible content lately.
Oh, his stuff is amazing. You have got to check out his YouTube channel, Mickey to Life. He just dropped his latest travel vlog, and I'm telling you, the production value he is putting into these videos is insane.
It really is. Go find Mickey to Life and give him some love. You won't regret it. Until next time, keep questioning the narrative.
See you next episode.